The film opens with a quiet but unsettling scene. A little girl, Lainey, running barefoot across a lonely stretch of farmland. Among the rotting fruit scattered on the ground, she finds one good apple and proudly carries it home. Bursting through the door, she hands it to her mother, Jessica. But instead of delight, Jessica sighs. Lainey has been collecting far too many apples and most end up uneaten. Jessica is a single mother raising two kids, Lainey and her younger brother Mason, out in her late grandmother's creaky old farmhouse. Life hasn't been easy. A recovering addict with no real support system, Jessica is desperate to move her family out of this broken-down place and start fresh in town with a steady job and a second chance. As she packs up, Jessica tosses food into the car and begins clearing the pantry. The old house is falling apart, and the pantry door, warped with age, doesn't open from the inside. To keep it from locking, she wedges a brick against it. She bags up expired cans and junk until something catches her eye, her grandmother's Bible. With a moment's pause, she decides to keep it, but the brick doesn't hold. Slowly, almost deliberately, the door swings shut and traps her inside. Jessica flips on the light and calls out for Lainey to open it. The child struggles with the rusted knob, her little hands too weak. Jessica kicks and pounds the door in frustration, but it won't budge. Noticing the hinges, she shouts for Lainey to fetch tools from the red box on the porch. The girl comes back with a screwdriver, but it doesn't fit the screws. Time drags on, and Jessica, exhausted, slumps to the floor. Then Lainey blurts out something alarming. Her dad, Jessica's ex, Rob, is at the house. He came for his toolbox. With no other choice, Jessica calls for his help. Rob is no savior. He's still using high as a kite, and he's not alone. He's brought his friend Sammy, a convicted child molester. Jessica is instantly on edge. Rob tries to charm her, spouting delusions about their past when they were a so-called power couple in their drug days. He pushes to rekindle things, mocking her sobriety, accusing her of acting superior. When she rejects him, his mask slips. He ridicules her for being stuck in the pantry, then strikes her across the face. Jessica scrambles for her phone to call for help, but Rob snatches it and shoves her back into the pantry, locking her in. Upstairs, Lainey hears the commotion. Jessica begs her to take Mason and lock themselves inside her room. But Rob escalates. With sick cruelty, he begins hammering nails through the pantry door. One drives straight through Jessica's palm, and she screams in agony. Outside, she hears Sammy offering to take the kids, and Jessica pleads with Rob to keep that monster away. Instead, Rob slides a packet of drugs under the door, sneering that he'll leave her trapped until she uses again. Then silence, the sound of the front door slamming shut. Shaking, Jessica wraps her bloody hand with napkins. After a while, she hears little footsteps. Lainey has returned, peeking through the boarded pantry door, confused and innocent. Jessica tries to stay calm, instructing her daughter to lock the front door, but it's unclear if Lainey really knows how. Worse, her phone is missing. The night drags on. Too young to manage everything, Lainey ends up wetting herself by the pantry door, sobbing apologies. Later, she admits she's hungry, but Rob has stolen the car keys and all the food is packed away. The only things left are a few jars of her grandmother's apple butter and a bottle of liquor. Jessica scrapes out some apple butter, pushing it under the door for Lainey, urging her to share with Mason. When night falls, Jessica lies on the pantry floor, weary and in pain. Through the door crack, she notices Lainey curled up on the floor outside, refusing to sleep alone. By morning, the child is still faithfully there, eating apple butter and trying to care for her baby brother. Jessica's hand wound looks worse. She asks Lainey to bring her something strong, something metal to help pry the door open, but the girl doesn't understand. She keeps returning with the wrong items until Jessica, overwhelmed and desperate, snaps at her in frustration. Jessica's frustration boils over when Lainey keeps bringing her the wrong tools. She snaps at her, but the second she hears her daughter crying, guilt floods in. Jessica apologizes, softening her voice. A little later, Lainey returns, proudly holding a screwdriver she found outside. For the first time, Jessica feels a flicker of hope. Despite the searing pain in her injured hand, she begins chipping at the pantry floor tiles, determined to dig her way out. With each strike, she tells herself freedom is possible. But the moment shatters when Lainey announces in a trembling voice that Sammy, the predator, is back inside the house. Panic surges through Jessica. She orders Laney to grab Mason and lock themselves in her upstairs room. Right on cue, Sammy saunters up to the pantry door. He taunts Jessica, saying he has every right to take Laney because Rob owes him money. The thought makes her sick, but she masks her fear with quick thinking. She calls out, claiming she has Rob's meth packet with her. Sammy perks up at the mention of drugs, so Jessica offers to trade it for her freedom. But he laughs, refusing. He doesn't want Rob's wrath. Desperate, Jessica adjusts the plan. She says she'll slide him the drugs, but only if he promises to leave her family alone. Playing the part of the helpless, wounded woman, she convinces him he'll need to reach far inside to grab it. Sammy takes the bait. He slides his arm in through the narrow crack, only for Jessica to plunge the screwdriver straight through his palm. He howls in pain as she slams it deeper with a brick, pinning him to the door. Cursing and thrashing, he eventually breaks down, begging her to release him. Jessica ignores him, continuing to chip at the floor. His pleading turns to venom, mocking her sobriety, spitting out, "Once a junkie, always a junkie." Enraged, Jessica slashes at his hand, silencing him with another scream. Night falls. A storm tears through the countryside, lightning flashing, wind howling. Suddenly the power cuts out, plunging the house into darkness. Upstairs, Laney cries out for her mother and rushes downstairs, unaware that Sammy is still pinned at the door. With a sudden burst of strength, Sammy grabs her. He threatens to snap the girl's leg if Jessica doesn't free him. Laney screams, and Jessica's desperation hits its breaking point. She douses Sammy's trapped arm with liquor, flicks her lighter, and sets him ablaze. Fire erupts, Sammy shrieking as he thrashes, finally releasing Laney. But the flames spread into the pantry. Jessica frantically puts them out, smoke filling the room. Outside, Sammy burns to death. Then silence. Laney is nowhere to be heard. Shaken and drained, Jessica wraps herself in a blanket, lighting a candle for dim comfort. Exhaustion finally drags her into uneasy sleep. By morning, the weight of everything crushes her. She calls softly for Laney, but there's no answer. Broken, she reaches for the drug packet Rob had shoved under the door. With trembling hands, she tears it open, about to surrender. But just then, her eyes fall on her grandmother's Bible. Something catches her attention. Sticking out from between the brittle pages, she finds an old, folded dollar bill. An unexpected sign of hope. Flipping through her grandmother's Bible, Jessica makes a surprising discovery. Dozens of dollar bills tucked between the pages, each marking passages about strength, perseverance, and faith. She even finds a handwritten recipe for the perfect apple butter. The gesture moves her to tears, but despair quickly follows. None of this will get her out of the pantry. In a burst of frustration, she hurls the Bible at the wooden cross hanging on the far wall. The cross crashes down, and as Jessica stoops to pick it up, she notices something above her, a steady leak from the ceiling. She claws at the damp planks overhead and realizes they're weak and rotted through. An idea sparks. She checks Sammy's body, just to be sure, then yanks the screwdriver free from his mutilated hand. With her good arm, she begins prying at the soggy ceiling until a hole breaks open. Determined, she widens the gap and finally hauls herself through, crawling her way into the upstairs bathroom. The hallway is littered with apple slices. Jessica rushes to the bedroom door where her children are locked in. It won't budge, so she slams it open with brute force. Inside, the room is chaos, blankets piled high on the bed. Her heart stops as she peels them back, terrified of what she'll find. Relief floods in. Beneath the layers, Laney and Mason are safe, fast asleep. Overcome, Jessica wakes them gently, promising food. With no car keys, Rob took them, and a storm raging outside, she decides to use Sammy's motorcycle keys instead. But first, they need to eat. She runs outside to check the car anyway, hoping it might be unlocked. No luck, the doors are shut tight. With no choice, she smashes a window with a brick to retrieve what food she can. As they hurry back inside, Laney drops her animal crackers. Later, she tearfully begs her mother to get them. Wanting to comfort her daughter, Jessica relents and steps out to retrieve the crackers. That's when she freezes. At the window, Sammy, alive, burned but breathing. Panic sets in. Jessica sprints back to the house, but the door is locked. Desperate, she smashes the front glass to break in, cutting her arm in the process. Inside, she follows the sounds of Mason crying upstairs and finds Sammy. He's holding the baby, knife pressed to his tiny chest. Jessica pleads with him, but Sammy wants revenge. Just as the moment teeters on disaster, Rob storms in with a gun. He points it at Sammy, forcing him to release the child. Jessica seizes the chance to pull her kids to safety. Rob, convinced Sammy has already hurt them, shoots him dead. But the nightmare isn't over. Rob turns to Jessica, demanding money. Reluctantly, she tells him about the bills hidden in the pantry. He pries open the door and greedily scoops up the cash. When Jessica asks him to let her and the kids go, he refuses. Instead, he smirks and demands they celebrate together, like old times. He wants her to relapse. Jessica hides her fear and pretends to play along. She suggests he grab food from the car first. When he returns, she's prepared an apple butter sandwich. Rob, thrilled, wolfs it down, convinced Jessica is softening. He sets up the drugs and insists they shoot up together. To keep the kids from seeing, they move to the living room. Rob goes first, injecting himself, grinning in euphoria. Jessica stalls, saying she isn't ready. His grin fades. He pulls his gun, forcing her to tie off her arm. But suddenly, Rob stumbles. His body trembles, his breathing falters. The drugs hit too hard, too fast. Jessica seizes her chance and bolts upstairs, clutching her children. Rob staggers after her, cornering her in the bedroom. He pins her to the wall, syringe in hand, snarling that he'll make her take it. Then his body betrays him. He collapses, gasping, convulsing on the floor. Jessica leans in, cold and unflinching. She reveals the truth. She laced his sandwich with meth. Now he's overdosing. In one last furious lunge, Rob threatens to kill her anyway. Jessica shoves him hard, sending him crashing through the upstairs window. He plummets to his death. Time passes. Jessica chooses not to leave her grandmother's farmhouse after all. Instead, she embraces her roots, making and selling apple butter from her grandmother's recipe. Locals fall in love with it, and the business flourishes. Most importantly, Jessica has made a promise to herself, a vow never to relapse again. Her children by her side, her grandmother's legacy alive, she finally builds a life worth living. The family's nightmare ends not with escape, but with resilience. And for the first time in a long time, their home is filled with hope.